Oh, press the pause button if you...
Welcome to From the Valley Podcast with your host, Tim Wilshire.
Yeah, welcome back to the podcast on a Monday, the 8th of April 2019. How are you going, Robert Cooper?
Good. How are you, Tim?
Very good. So, listeners will probably remember if, I think about the third episode I did, Robert Cooper came on, and I think it was probably one of the longest episodes, if not the longest episode we ever did, so it was sort of...
We were going for a world record, weren't we?
Probably, but today's podcast won't be as long.
Yeah.
But what's been happening, Robert? Tell us a bit about what's been going on in your life.
Our business is pretty busy, but in recent times there's been some issues that are affecting a business like mine, and one is the Royal Commission, the Hayne Royal Commission, and some of the recommendations that they've made, which is going to impact greatly the financial services sector. And that is something that long term we have to consider. Basically, the Hayne Royal Commission has made it clear they don't like what they call conflicted remunerations, which is something that a profession like insurance broking, mortgage broking, basically any sort of broking profession deals with. However, we've got a fair few arguments why there are merits in this current system we have, where we get paid commissions from insurance companies. And so, as an insurance broker, we will quote and advise our clients before we ever get paid.
Yeah.
And then if the client makes the decision to proceed with cover, with the recommendations that we make, we then place the cover with that insurance company that's come up with the best deal for them, and then ultimately we get paid back by the insurance companies. And it's the same for mortgage brokers. They'll go to a number of different institutions and get the best deal for their client and arrange a mortgage accordingly. There has been some other conflicts in our profession in the past. For instance, some of those insurance companies have owned some of the intermediary networks, but there's always been agents of insurance companies, just the same way as there's been mortgage broking organisations that have been owned by the banks.
So it's interesting. I mean, obviously, what was quite prevalent with the Hayne Royal Commission was, the mortgage brokers were certainly singled out in a couple of sentences, basically, and then the government, or both sides of government, have tried to go and try to defend brokers and mortgage brokers and what they do. But it seemed quite, and obviously they look at things like conflicts of interest. But obviously what they want is more of a fee-for-service model, is what I guess Hayne was probably more preferable on. But you tell me, I guess, with the fee-for-service option, and is that something that would ever work in the insurance broking industry, do you see, or does it always have to work with commission, do you think?
It does work when you get to the large corporate accounts where they're paying millions of dollars in insurance.
Yep.
Then the commissions are unfairly skewed towards the insurance broker then. So what they'll generally do is net back the premium from the commissions and charge a professional fee for the services that are involved. So that's the very large companies. But for small business, they don't have a lot of expenses, and they usually look to try and keep costs down. They certainly know that they need to speak to an accountant early on, but not many of them will go and seek legal advice or insurance advice. Now, what is welcoming with legal advice and insurance advice is lawyers might offer the first hour for free to discuss something with them and try and establish a relationship with them. The way we establish a relationship with our client is basically providing upfront free advice until they're in a position where they want to insure. They don't have to take out insurance. So we can spend a lot of time providing quotes to our clients, and they may never ever go ahead and take out the cover. In fact, some of them decide that they won't perhaps start up a business early on, but it hasn't cost them anything. Yep. Now, if we bring in fees, there's a certain point that we've got to start charging fees, and we've got to be upfront with what sort of fees that we charge per hour. At the moment, we don't say to a customer, well, it usually involves 8 hours doing all the work to set up an insurance program for you, and we charge out at $200 an hour, then the person is very quickly put off with just the fees.
Yeah.
But if we earn a commission from the insurer, and the bulk of that money is going to the insurance company anyway, then part of that money is coming back to us as a commission. Now, I can understand why they might think it's conflicted remuneration, because there's a chance that an insurance broker might say, oh, well, I'll stand to earn a lot more money if I place it with this insurance company with their higher premium. However, we're in competition with other insurance brokers.
Yeah, exactly.
And quite often when a person starts out, before they establish a relationship with an insurance broker, they might access various sources such as the internet, going online and getting a quote. They might speak to a couple of different insurance brokers and see which one they have a good rapport with. And for that reason, we're in competition. So it's not in our interests to maximise the commission that we earn. From our client's point of view, in theory, if they went direct to the insurance company, they would get the premium for exactly the same than they would through a broker. But the advantage of using an insurance broker is that apart from us accessing all the markets they wouldn't even know about, because not all of them are on the internet offering their services.
The knowledge of the market is obviously something you see every second of the day. Yeah,
we also can interpret a complicated policy document. It's not the easiest of documents.
I guess the main things that the main types of things in the policy that someone's going to obviously need to consider.
Yeah, well, with a policy document, for instance, I mean, you can read on the first page that you're covered for just about everything, but 4 or 5 pages into the document, you start seeing the things that they are excluding out of it, and they're not easy documents. You've got to virtually read the whole lot in context. Not every business person has the time to do that, or perhaps the legal knowledge that they have learnt to be able to follow documents like that. So we're there to interpret those policy documents for them as well. Access a wider range of markets, as you mentioned, seek out the best cover at the best price. So we're very wary of certain endorsements or restrictions that might be put on that particular occupation's cover that may mean that they get a lower premium, but knocks out a lot of cover they ordinarily would want to be protected for. So those things are all discussed with our clients. And but probably the third most important thing is, and it's often forgotten, is that claims happen. And when a claim happens, they need someone there to assist them through the process, someone there to negotiate with insurers and make sure things are tracking along the way they should be, making sure that the insurers are paying the claims the way it's set out in the policy document. And there's a whole range of services we provide in the claims sector that So we're virtually an advocate at claims time for our clients. Yeah, so it's a big service that we provide. Now, the Hayne Royal Commission has actually given us a 3-year reprieve before our commissions are reviewed again.
So it's another 3 years, so sort of 2022.
Yeah. So we really need to set about educating, particularly small to medium business, because
they definitely need the education in that space to be able to understand what's going to happen.
Yeah, the large corporates. Yeah, there's a fine line between where it becomes beneficial for a fee to be charged instead of earning commissions, but on the other hand, well, we need to be paid for our work that we do. So, I mean, we could go about the same process of not earning anything until we place the insurance cover. But then if we do place the insurance cover and then give them our fee for doing that, there's going to be, I think, a lot of issues with the customer. So much so that they'll probably say to themselves, well, I could jump on the internet and do this for myself. The trouble with jumping online and arranging your own insurance cover is that you won't get any advice, certainly not comparing one insurer with another. You are totally responsible for checking out the level of cover that you've got, and if anything, the consumer will lose out of the whole process if the fees that we end up charging will encourage our clients to say, well, I could save that money myself and do it myself.
Yeah.
However, are they going to get the best possible advice? They've saved some money, but are they going to get the right cover?
Exactly. They're not going to know if it's the right policy unless they know exactly everything that you would know, which is impossible. I mean, they haven't, they're not an insurance broker. Unless they're an insurance broker, they don't know the policy inside out like an insurance broker would. And obviously all the years of experience in knowing what's actually happened in the past, what's happening now, what's happening in the future. So having a broker for anything, but in your case, an insurance broker, is certainly something that you in business, you've got to have that. You've got to have somebody who can basically steer you in the right direction. I mean, I don't know, I don't sort of associate with too many other insurance brokers, but I know that that yourself and Mandy go to huge lengths to make sure a claim is followed to the letter of the law for the benefit of the client. So that's something you're not going to be able to get if you try to do it all yourself. That is for sure. So what about with mortgage broking? Do you think that's going to just have a similar sort of? I guess in the future, what do you think is going to happen? They're talking about trail commissions sort of disappearing.
Well, the government and apparently the opposition have now relented on mortgage brokers to a certain extent. But I think what they're advocating is that they just want them to get paid one upfront commission. And I think the argument for mortgage brokers is that they do have a duty of care to make sure that their customer is still getting the best deal that's available in the market. And it's not something that we, even with insurance companies, we like to chop and change every year, because it's a lot of additional paperwork and it will just add costs in the long term to everybody's loans. However, after say 5 years, a mortgage broker might be aware of a more attractive deal for that particular customer. There isn't any real incentive for them to offer that back to their customer unless they have a continual duty to them. And I think their argument is the trailing commission means that they have an ongoing duty to still be in touch with their clients. It's not an upfront transaction and we'll never ever meet again. So that could be disruptive to their profession, because what could happen is that another mortgage broker might come in and offer to do a review of their current loan and come up with a much better solution, and they win a big upfront commission instead, and they change to a different mortgage broker. Now, ultimately, people have to pay for those sorts of services. So I don't see anything wrong with the current mortgage broking method of commission, just like I don't see anything wrong with the current insurance broking method. But I do agree that brokers need to be acting for clients, not for insurance companies or banks. And as much as possible, that sort of conflict should be eliminated. And we've seen that a fair bit in recent times. For instance, IAG, the biggest insurer in Australia, owned a very large network of authorised representatives and had a broking licence, and it was a community broking network, and they saw that as a potential conflict going forward into the future, so they ended up selling that business to the Steadfast Group.
Yep.
And Vero currently own a business called Resilium, which is also a network of authorised representatives, and they have an arm called Resilium Insurance Broking, and I believe that they're considering offloading that, simply so they don't get accused of any bias or conflicts of interest there. But in regards to the commission, I think if we look at the historical context of how commissions came about, it really came about is that with the Insurance Contracts Act, which came into force in Australia about 35 years ago, and prior to that, insurance companies had their own sales and service divisions. They used to call the people in those positions fire inspectors or insurance inspectors, and they were representing the company as employees. And over time, particularly with the differentiation between what an insurance company is and what an insurance broker is, we saw that insurance companies very much didn't want to write everything that was out there. They wanted to charge premiums for what they perceived to be the good risks, and charge high premiums for what they saw as the bad risks. And basically, it was only insurance brokers that really knew each of those companies and how competitive they could be on certain risks. So when you're an insurance broker, you send out a submission to each of those companies, and an insurance company that particularly happens to like a particular occupation, they'll come back with their quote, and that may be more competitive than another insurance company that's had a bad run of claims on that particular occupation. So an insurance broker's role was then to find the insurance company that will give the client the best deal. So in the meantime, the insurance companies reviewed their need to have a sales and service department that dealt direct with the public, and started to consider, we have to pay for that sales force to be at our front desks at the shop front, and they're not able to write everything they can. They're basically telling people no a lot of the time, and we're paying for that. So why don't we get rid of our own sales force?
Made sense.
And leave it all to the insurance brokers, and that commission is based on the expense that they would normally have paid to run their own sales force. So insurance companies started to become more of instead of having a shop front, they sort of disappeared high up into an office tower, and only dealt with brokers. And a lot of them, if you rang them direct, they said you'll have to talk to an insurance broker. And as a result, that's how the insurance broking profession really started to kick off on its own. Now, what's happened since then is that the internet's come along, and they've been able to replace human beings from saying no, to be able to put in programs and so forth where you can go in yourself and give them your occupation, and a computer will say yes or no, and if it says yes, it will quote the premium they would do, instead of having to have that human being that you have to pay wages to doing it for you. So the insurance companies have found that they can now come back into that area and compete. However, they haven't got any people to give you advice.
Right.
So while you can access their premiums online, and they'll send you a copy of the policy wording, they can't do any more than that. And as a result, while we see that as competition, we know our point of differentiation is the fact that we can give advice to our clients, and they're not paying any different, basically.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, there's a lot more disputes that happen for the online direct market compared to the insurance broking market, and that's borne out with statistics from ASIC, who have found that with all the reports to what was previously FOSS, now AFCA, the insurance companies where there's a broking involvement have a lot lower number of complaints, and that's because us brokers are there making sure the insurance company is doing the right thing and paying the claim. And so what I would say is that if they do ban commissions and we have to charge a fee, I think people more and more will go and use the internet.
Yeah.
Won't get the advice. There'll be a lot more claims disputes.
There'll be a lot more mistakes happening as well.
Yeah,
When
and
it comes to obviously getting the wrong types, the wrong inclusions in the policy,
Yeah.
and stuff that they don't need, and stuff that's obviously they should have that they miss out on. So
I think the consumer will be the
Yeah.
big loser at the end of the day, and all right, the government can strengthen ASIC's laws, but if anything, it could have all been prevented by having people able to give advice.
yeah,
And when you start up a business, you need advice from a wide range of sources, but insurance broking, an insurance broker isn't one that readily comes to mind, and I'm very grateful for the accounting profession that usually says to a client, have you looked at talking to an insurance broker about how to protect your business in case you're sued, or the assets that you've got? And from there they say they're a bit wary of an insurance broker, what's it going to involve, but they talk to us, and basically they're getting free advice up front, and it's only when they decide that they want to insure those assets and their liabilities that we earn any money from it.
I mean, other brokering industries, I mean, what we sort of haven't heard much about is real estate agents and that type of thing. What do you think about, because they obviously work on a basis where they get paid a commission, and obviously, and it's a matter of obviously different courses, because obviously all they're doing is trying to sell a property, and obviously try to sell it for the best price. What do you think of real estate agents, the way they earn commission?
Well, yeah, they've got a lot of
and then you've got your fixed fee competitors as well.
Yeah, that's true, and that's going to be an interesting area to watch. But it comes down to who the real estate agent is actually working for, and we don't hear of real estate brokers. So where it would be a real estate broker would be me going to
I suppose it's more of a buyer's agent, isn't it?
Yeah.
In that sort of industry, people like your Simon Presley, who's the buyer's agent, gets a fee from the buyer, goes out and finds the property.
Yeah. So if I wanted to look for a house in, say, Sydney, and I don't know Sydney too well, and I might get a real estate broker to source out houses for me, and they'd negotiate with a real estate agent
That's part of
or
what they would
directly
do, yeah.
with the buyer. Motor vehicle brokers, and you and I know a few motor vehicle
And also
brokers.
vehicle search brokers, yeah.
Yeah, so if I said to a motor vehicle broker, I really want to have a particular type of car, and then he would go to car dealers that he's able to access and see if that particular car is available, whether it's brand new or second hand, negotiate a deal on your behalf, and he earns a commission from the car dealer. You get the car at the same price you would have bought it for, but you haven't had all that time looking around, constantly going through carsales.com or driving around on a Saturday to lots of dealerships looking for that car that you specifically want. And a motor vehicle broker can take all that time and trouble away for you. And so the role of a broker, whether it's insurance, mortgages, finance as well, is quite valuable. But what can put off our customers is the fact that they might have to pay a large fee when, if they went direct to that particular dealer, they'd get the car at the same amount, and compared to if they went through a vehicle dealer, they get the car at the same amount. So it's easier for the car dealer because they spend a lot of time trying to sell cars and not getting a sale. Instead, they've got someone that says, "Have you got this car?" And they're more likely to get a sale. So it saves time, and it's the same for insurance companies. It saves time for them, and that process. There is a cost to that process, and that cost is passed on to the brokers. And so that's why I don't necessarily agree that it's conflicted remuneration like the Hayne Royal Commission has said. I think. So we basically, us insurance brokers now have to go out and educate the public, the community, small businesses and medium businesses about what an insurance broker does, why they're important in the equation, how valuable they can be to their business, how it's not going to cost them anymore, but they're going to be getting advice that's critical to protect their assets and liabilities when it comes to some disaster that could hit them down the track, and which otherwise they'd have to go about spending a lot of their own time doing themselves.
So, sorry. I guess with CPR Insurance Services, you guys obviously have won quite a few awards over in recent years. What sort of awards have been? You got nominated for some more awards recently, didn't you?
Yep. We've got nominated once again for insurance brokerage 1 to 5 staff in the Insurance Australia magazine awards, and they're being held on the 4th of May. So Mandy and I are going down for that.
Whereabouts for that? Down in Sydney, or? Yeah,
in Sydney. It's going to be at the Star Casino. It's we went to the equivalent one last year, and we were fortunate enough to pick up the award for Insurance Brokerage of the Year, 1 to 5 staff. So we're going to see if we can do it back to back.
I think you've always got a good chance.
Yeah.
But I think you guys obviously do a really good job, and the awards that you win, very much deserve. You guys put in a lot of hard work. You're certainly out there for your clients, and you certainly do everything you can to make sure they have a great experience. And that's what that's why you get a lot of clients coming to see you every year and sprouting you and saying, look, these people should be winning awards. So that's
well, it did create a boost for our business last year, but it has put on the other hand, we want to put more staff on to try and handle that additional workload. It hasn't been easy to find experienced, qualified insurance brokers.
You find is it a difficult process to find the right sort of staff in your industry?
Yeah, it is. It's a problem that the insurance broking industry has in general. It's insurance broking isn't one of those occupations that you dream of being when you're at school. And usually most of us have come across insurance broking and fallen into it in some way. Perhaps in my case, I decided that I wouldn't go to university straight away, and I wanted to work. And I really didn't. Probably the main problem with going to university is I didn't really know what I wanted to end up doing. And so I took a job with an insurance company as a junior clerk, mail boy, which is the other term for it, and it happened to be with an insurance company called Edward Lumley and Sons, which has became known as Lumley's, and unfortunately is now been sold to IAG, and is now part of CGU. But I got very interested in what the insurance industry was all about then, and put off going to university for quite a few years after. But when I did go to university, it was to do a postgraduate degree in insurance and then an MBA. But it was only because it was an available job and it happened to be with an insurance company that I took an interest in insurance. But I don't know how we can break those barriers and have in our industry we tend to find a lot of sons and daughters of insurance brokers becoming the next generation of insurance brokers. Some people say it's the best kept secret, our profession. Our profession has a whole wide range of skills required in it, and there can be a great deal of stress involved in it, but I think there's probably stress in any professional services job. And also, due to legislation over the years, it's becoming more and more necessary for us to be qualified.
Fairly regulated with the paperwork.
Yeah, particularly for certain types of products that they call retail products. If you want to give advice on motor vehicle insurance, you have to write out a statement of advice. But we think it's a fantastic profession. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, okay.
And you get to use a wide range of skills, everything from legal knowledge, a bit of accounting knowledge, negotiation skills, and but biggest skill you need as an insurance broker is the ability to form good relationships with people. An insurance broker is an intermediary. In other words, we're in between the client or customer and the insurance companies. We represent the client and the customer. However, we naturally have to get along well with insurance companies to be able to get a good deal for our clients and customers.
Yeah.
So it's very much a relationship business, and we've had friendships in our industry for a great many years, and these people helped us with our own business when we've needed something to get a client across the line.
Yep. Often
it's been an insurance company that's given us the deal for our client, and and that's probably the biggest skill you need: the ability to form good personal relationships with people.
So, Robert, obviously we're going to a networking lunch today, the Valley Chamber of Commerce Cloudland lunch. Guest speaker, Prime Minister Scott Morrison. It's going to be very interesting to see what he has to say, that's for sure. When we sort of get close to an election like this, is this something you sort of look forward to and saying, "Oh, gee, I wonder what's going to happen next? How the outcomes of these different, I guess, life-changing things that happen
Yeah.
when it comes to politics.
Well, I think a lot of people involved in the insurance industry worry about more and more red tape.
Yep, always.
And more legislation on us. And remember, that legislation is based around consumer issues, just for a minority of matters. And usually, as we say, in any industry, in any profession, you're going to get the odd person doing the wrong thing, and it can taint your whole industry. And the governments tend to make laws to fix up that small percentage that do the wrong thing and don't give anyone else the opportunity to do it. So as a result, over years, we've got a lot more legislation that regulates our industries. And you see it with the accounting profession too. But I have tended to find that in the 40 years that I've been in insurance, it hasn't really mattered who was in government. They always seem to be fairly bipartisan on any legislation to do with the financial services industry.
Yep.
And one party might come up with a legislation, there's a change of government, but the next government still brings it in and implements it. So some people are fearful of it, but more now we've got issues that are concerning insurance companies and the area of, for instance, non-conforming or cladding that's been found to be fitted to buildings, and we've had a couple of big fires in Melbourne, and then of course disaster in London with the Grenfell Centre. And so issues like cladding comes back and affects our industry, because suddenly insurance companies are wondering if they're charging an appropriate rate for those particular buildings that might be using cladding that could be highly flammable on the outside of their buildings.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Then climate change is another issue, particularly for people in North Queensland. North Queenslanders,
there's a lot of heat.
Yeah, their property rates are going up enormously because they have a lot more intense cyclones and storms that hit the region.
Flood seasons.
And floods, yeah.
There's fires and.
So we know the theory where if it's getting hotter, there's going to be more evaporation over oceans, and then when it crosses the land, they're going to dump even more water. So we see a lot more floods in different parts of the world. There's a major flood in, I think, Iraq at the moment.
Oh, in Iraq, okay.
Yeah, and Iraq or Iran, around there. And so we're seeing big variances in the weather, and for insurance companies, they've got to factor that into their rating of risks, because insurance companies don't want to make losses, and they have shareholders that all want to get dividends, and so as a result, they'll put the rates up for certain regions that they think of a much higher risk, and perhaps start reserving more money for the major catastrophes down the track, and that impacts on everyone's premium. So generally at the moment we're seeing most people's premiums going up.
You don't see them coming down, that's for sure.
No, and that's in the property area. In the liability area, certain pockets of areas have had some impacts, such as for building surveyors and fire engineers with the cladding issue. They're looking to blame someone, and there has just been a recent court case in Melbourne where the fire engineers and building surveyors and an architect have had to pay 97% of the losses on the what was called the lacrosse building following a cladding fire on that. So there's all these issues that always pop up all the time and become a concern to us, because it can send up prices, and believe me, we don't want our clients having to pay a lot more. We probably expect premiums maybe to go up with the inflation rate or the CPI, but when it goes up abnormally, that has a big impact on our clients because they've got small businesses that they're trying to run and they're trying to keep expenses down.
Especially, their wages haven't sort of been growing at that rate in a lot of cases, most cases, pretty much every case. So having things like, electricity prices rising and insurance prices rising, and it's certainly, there's a bit of a, it's becoming a bit harder people are starting to cut back on things in order to make ends meet.
Well, one of the problems with insurance is an area to cut back on is to reduce your sum insured. Yeah. And underinsurance is a big problem also.
Yeah, definitely.
So while insurance companies might index people's houses because they think, it'll cost 5% more this year to rebuild their home, but the premium goes up 12%. The customer say, it's not going to cost any more than it did last year. Can you put it back to what the sum insured was last year? And that reduces the price a little bit to help them out. But if they have a fire,
it sort of makes sense that they try to do whatever they can.
Yeah, but if they have a fire and it turns out that they're perhaps 40,000 short, and it would have only cost them $20 to cover that 40,000, and that's how little it can be, just to save a few bucks. They have to borrow an extra 40,000 from the bank to rebuild their home, and so underinsurance is a problem, and because with prices going up, people will tend to cut corners.
And do you personally see a lot of underinsurance? Do you see like cases where people are trying to make a claim that you see that they haven't sort of hit the mark of what they needed to hit, and you're seeing this sort of thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, you do see it. A person says, I should have insured for a replacement cost, shouldn't I, instead of market value and things like that. So if we have a person who insures their office contents, what they've got to think about is if they have a fire and they have to buy new office contents to come in and replace it, and those office contents goes up in price.
Yep.
When people tend to look around, the desks and chairs, they're pretty old anyway, so I might as well keep the sum insured low.
Yeah.
So when they have a fire, they probably accept the fact that they've got a realistic value for their contents, but what they then find is that they've got to replace it with brand new items, and that has a big impact on their cash flow. Then they check the policy then and find that they could have insured for the new replacement value, and that's when they regret not insuring for replacement value. But those are all the sorts of challenges, and that's the advice we constantly discuss with our clients. And it's not something you're going to readily get from the media and or going online looking for quotes. These issues. It's our job as insurance brokers to keep our clients informed, particularly at renewal time, about all these issues that they face, and have them make informed and appropriate decisions.
Yeah, that's all good. So what do you sort of, you got anything planned over Easter or anything like that?
Oh, myself personally, I'm going to Blues Fest.
No, that's right. Yeah. So what's you looking at? You've been, how many times have you been to Blues Fest over the years?
I can't remember. I don't know, 5 or 6 times, I think.
Johnny going again this year?
Yeah, he loves it. He's starting to play the guitar a lot more, so which is good. So you get to see these talented musicians and hopefully get inspired more by them. And
so when you go to that, do you set up a tent there? How do you sort of? What's your accommodation?
We stay in a tent motel.
Tent motel.
Yeah, so they already set up a tent for you.
Like a tippy thing, or?
You can get a teepee. That's one of the options that you've got. We just grab an ordinary tent, and it's got a couple of beds in it, and you just have to bring your own linen and pillows. And
so it's not like you have to bring too much stuff then with you, just to.
No,
enjoy yourself.
And there's a lot of food available in Blues Fest.
How many days does it go for you?
5 days. Yeah,
so all of Easter, basically.
Yeah, so it starts the Thursday afternoon.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, Monday night, and then we come home Tuesday morning and back to work.
Yeah.
But
it's not far away.
Yeah, but we've got Anzac Day a couple of days later. So I think a lot of people will be making that a bit of a holiday week, but I think school goes back that week. Yeah. So yeah, Blues Fest, it's their 30th year, and they should have a lot of great performances there, so we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
Kedron Brook Business Group, I mean, I ran things a little bit when you were away, about a week or so ago.
Yeah, thanks very much for that.
That's fine, mate. It was great. I think the group is still pretty good. I mean, sometimes you have months where there's not as many people there, but a great group of people, and obviously is the plan to continue to do this every month still? Is it still going pretty well?
Yeah, while there's still people wanting to be involved and go to it, the idea of the Kedron Group Business Group is for people in mainly the Windsor, Wilston, Grange area, small businesses to get together.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost them anything except for breakfast. And we also try to use a different venue each month, so that each cafe gets a little bit of a boost and a bit of promotion for themselves. And it gives us an opportunity to hear from a couple of businesses to talk about their own businesses and get to know each other better. Gets back to that those personal relationships, and you can form some very good long-term relationships from being involved in groups, not just Kedron Brook Business Group, but the Valley Chamber of Commerce is a fantastic group, and we've got to know so many people from being involved with the Valley Chamber of Commerce, and building up all those friendships and relationships and so forth is ultimately good, not just for your own business, but just for life in general.
Yeah, no, it's sort of, yeah, a lot of that type of networking that you've spoken about. I sort of look forward to that on a fairly regular basis. Bit of music.
Yeah.
Was that?
That was the wife.
That was Mandy saying, "Must be time for the podcast to be over." Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Yeah, I think so.
We've had our fun for the day, I guess. But thank you very much, Robert. It's been great to have you back on the podcast. Any sort of final things that you wanted to add? I know you had a nice, good chat about broking there today. It's gone 48 minutes. Yeah,
well, I welcome anyone if they want to find out more about how our profession works. Please give us a call, and we think our profession is vital in the business world, in the business sector for small to medium business. But we also understand that small businesses have got to be wary of their costs and expenses, but we'd like to think that we assist in keeping those as minimal as possible.
No worries. Thanks, Robert. Thanks very much for being on the podcast again. Make sure you share that to everybody there and get the content around. But thank you very much, and we'll keep chatting, I guess, at the lunch.